ready, financially ready, all the things. And today we have a special speaker who's coming to speak to you from Baptist Health. She is going to share her journey with you. She's going to kind of share a little bit about what she does. We'll have some time for questions and answers at the end, but she's just here with a wealth of knowledge to work with you guys. So enjoy. Let's welcome Amanda Murphy.
Thank you, everyone. We're already talking a little bit. How is everyone today? It's Monday morning. We survived a weekend. How did the football team do? I didn't get to hear. Do they win? No. Oh, bad. Okay, sorry. always a great weekend. We get to have some sports and we get to have some fun. But my name is Amanda Murphy. I am the Assistant Vice President for Nursing Education for Baptist Health South Florida. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and about that position in a minute, but we're all in these healthcare classes. How many of you have some aspirations to potentially work in a hospital one day? Any idea what you want to do already? Yeah. What? Firefighter. Excellent. What else? Labor and delivery nurse. Always a popular choice for everyone, right? The babies are cute till they're crying, then they're not, right? What else? What? Oh, NICU. Very sick babies, very tiny, but also a great place to work. Anyone else? A veterinarian. Excellent. Always got to take care of those animals as well. So I'm going to hear, while I'm here today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my career journey, and not just my career journey, but my education journey, because every single one of those looks and feels a little bit different. So I want you all to start to understand that as we go through here. Roadblocks, successes, and failures. How many of you have had a perfect life leading up to these, 16, 17 years? Mm-hmm. No, you're never going to have that in life, right? So how do you take those roadblocks and turn them into wins, right? Or lessons? And how do you take those successes and always continue to grow with them? And then just some advice on how to get started down your path to be a veterinarian, or down your path to be a NICU or labor and delivery nurse. There are many ways that we can get to that final destination in healthcare. And that's a really good thing, right? So I'm going to ask you a question. Anybody ever been to Pennsylvania? Just a couple of you. Where'd you go in PA? I was going to say, don't tell me Philadelphia.
And I went somewhere like closer up to New York.
Excellent. So I actually grew up in Pennsylvania. And I put a little map up here in a town called Burgettstown, Pennsylvania. Now, let me tell you how many people Burgettstown, Pennsylvania has. What's that say? 1,411 people. How many kids go to this school? Probably more, right, than the town that I grew up in. I think most of your high schools have between like 2,000, 3,000 kids, sometimes even more. So my town was a very small town, right? If you look at just the family income, and these were all taken in 2022, so not very long ago, $39,271 for a family, and that's about a family of 4, right? So don't have a lot of money, don't have a lot of opportunities, and we have, unlike you, one public high school. One. And guess what? Right? Yes. And so if you don't like someone, you really can't get away from them. What grade do you think we start high school in?
You guys start early.
I actually started high school in 6th grade.
Yeah, like everywhere else on that strip from like Delaware up, all start.
Yes, very young. So you are separated. You have like a 6th, 7th, 8th, and then you can transition into 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th is what's considered your high school. But just one high school, and my graduating class had like 116 people. Yes. Very tiny. And our most famous notable resident is a guy named, anybody like football in here? Maybe you don't like football. You do? His name was Barry Alvarez, and he was the University of Wisconsin head football coach. But I want to point out when he retired. 2005, which was like 20 years ago now. So there's not been a lot of movement out of that town. So what do you think Amanda wanted to do when she was in high school? I wanted to escape, right? I say that with the best intentions and with the best heart, but I knew that I didn't want to be enclosed any longer in a small environment. I really wanted to challenge myself to learn and grow and meet other people and not be surrounded by imagine that this was a fourth of my class or a third of my class. So it was very, very, very tiny. So I wanted to escape and I started to think about what I wanted to do. There were no medical magnet programs. The arts were not embraced. We had a very, very small band, but that was because people chose to just get involved. It wasn't like anything was extremely organized. Everything was really, really tiny. So I was lucky in that my mom was a teacher. So I knew I liked to teach. My favorite thing was what she taught third grade. So once I got above third grade, I was able to check their papers. We didn't have computers, right? We wrote on the paper. So I loved being able to help with her grading and kind of writing and preparing for the classes. And I also had a grandmother who was a nurse in the World War. So she had left behind, she passed away when I was relatively young, but she had left behind a lot of books and a lot of her memorabilia. And I remember sitting downstairs, and when I would teach the classroom, I would teach from the physician desk reference, which was a large manual that taught you about like medications and about disease processes. And so that was my teaching. And when I got to this point in my life, I knew I wanted to do something with the two of those. So I took my chance and I have applied to the University of Pittsburgh. How much bigger do you think that was than Burgettstown? It's a big school, right? Like 40,000 students. It was huge. And it was also at that time, the number 6 program in the country. And I thought, there is no way I'm going to get into this program, right? I didn't come from any medical backgrounds. I'm not even sure I have the right sciences. I'm not even sure that I have the right ability or can integrate in here. So I really went to my guidance counselor, and one of the first bits of advice that I can give you is, as you're preparing for college and you have to write those essays, work with someone. How many of you are the best writers in the world? None of us, right? We all need a little help. We all need people to look over it. We all need people to make sure they can understand our experience. So I sat down and went through all of those essays with them. And really, with your essays, who should you be writing them for? Take something that's personal, something that makes you different, something that makes you unique, and take a chance and put that out there in the world, because that's what I did. So I was very, very excited when I got accepted into the University of Pittsburgh. I was also very, very, very nervous because, again, it was a huge change in my life. I did move to Pittsburgh. The University of Pittsburgh campus, the main campus, is located right in the center of town. And I pursued my Bachelor's of Science degree in nursing. So it was a 4-year degree. While I was taking my nursing classes, I also took my gen ed classes. So it was a balancing act, right? Because not only am I practicing on mannequins and coming in and doing the skills lab and learning all of that, doing clinicals at local hospitals and area schools, but also just going through and doing my English and my speaking and my college algebra, right? All of those were combined into a 4-year program. So I did graduate from Pitt in 1997. Am I dating myself? Yes, that was in the 1900s. And I was very, very blessed to get a job at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. Again, a very, very huge medical center and academic teaching center for medicine in the city of Pittsburgh. What was beautiful about this is, again, in college, they came into a classroom where we were sitting and they said, we're going to open 12 new positions. This was before like the residency programs and things like that were very popular. And they said, we want you all to apply. Out of 132 of us in the class, how many do you think applied?
Oh, okay.
15. How do you even know if you're going to get something if you don't try it? Right? So there were only 15 of us. So luckily my competition was, I didn't have to compete against 100 other people, but there were 15 of us. Went through, were able to interview with several different units. And I, again, was very lucky to get placed on a thoracic surgical unit. So I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. What do you think this is? What do you think it was? Surgeries. And I got, let me see your medical terminology. Where's thoracic? What's that mean? My chest, right? So it was chest and it was a surgical unit. So you're right. They all come out of some sort of chest surgery. I was so lucky. Do you know what I got to do? Heart transplants and lung transplants as my first job. You also know how scared I was every single day when I walked into work, because I was brand new and didn't know what I was doing and learning everything on there. But again, I mention all of this because if you don't take those chances and you don't put yourself out there and you don't at least try, how are you going to ever know? I'm so happy to hear that you guys are going to explore colleges, right? How do you know until you see them and experience them and figure out where you want to go? So this was a great experience for me. Not only did it grow my ability to be a nurse, but also just grew me as a person, right? Coming from a small town and not being exposed to a lot of things, I had an opportunity to really learn about different cultures and different people, and start to grow myself too and figure out who I was. So great learning opportunity for me. Few years later, I moved to a place called Altoona, Pennsylvania. Anybody hear of Penn State? Yeah, Penn State, right? You have to realize that if you go to the University of Pittsburgh, you don't like Penn State. So it was a very difficult move, right? But I want you to take a look at this. Look at the population of Altoona, Pennsylvania. 43,000, right? I was in a much bigger town. I was seeing many, many more people, and these hospital systems were really, really busy. If you look up Altoona and you find out what makes it famous, it is where a lot of the railroads run, not your Bright Line. I'm talking like old school choo-choo trains. You guys ever see them? Like they'll blow the whistles, the smoke will come out, and there's something called Horseshoe Curve up there. It's a very wide and treacherous curve that the trains would go on and just use it to deliver goods. So very, very different. It's also the home to Sheetz and the Boyer Candy Company. I put that up here because I see a lot of you eating candy. It's like candy bars. It's the home of candy bars. So needless to say, when I lived in Altoona, we ate really well, right? And we always had a large amount of food. But while I was here, I always mention this stop in my journey, because when I was in this hospital, what I appreciated about the experience and the people and the leadership is they very rarely ever told me no. Because this was a point in my journey where I wanted to grow. I left nursing school thinking I wanted to be a pediatric nurse. I never laid foot in a pediatric office or on a pediatric unit. So my vision and my plan kind of changed. So I worked in something called a surgical progressive care unit. That was a unit where we would treat the open heart patients. So when you think of open heart, what do you immediately think of?
Chest open heart.
Right? Your chest is like ripped open. I worked nights too. My favorite story was when, and this shouldn't be a favorite story, but it is, a gentleman had a problem one night and the surgeon came in and we literally cracked his chest in the hospital room. We couldn't even, it was so dire that we couldn't even get him down to the operating room. We were literally holding flashlights and trying to get everything that we needed. It was a mess, but those were my experiences with open heart. So it was a great opportunity. I left that floor and I went into the emergency room. Anybody ever thought about working in the emergency room? Well, if you're going to be a firefighter, you'll have a lot of emergencies to go to. Anybody ever thought of that space? A little bit? It's scary, right? And we were a level 2 trauma center. So we had Life Flight that would come in. We also, anybody knows Pennsylvania, what kind of weather we got up there?
Cold, icy.
I love your face. Your face is like cold and icy. Yeah, it's cold and icy and miserable 99% of the time because it's gray. It is. It's gray. So we would get a lot of people from rollover accidents, wrecks. We would also get train problems, or if they had some accidents, and we'd be able to treat all of these patients. This is really where I gained the most experience. You know why? They said, do you want to go to an IV class? Do you know what I said?
Yeah.
Yes. You want to go to an EKG class? What do you say? Yes. You want to go to that trauma class in the next neighboring town to learn more about your traumas? Yes. When someone's going to give you those opportunities, what do you need to say?
Yes.
Just like today, you all said yes to come in here and listen and grow with this. And that's part of the journey. Whatever someone can offer you to help you to grow and become better, at whether it's just a better person or better at your profession, you want to take them up on those opportunities. And then I also did a little bit of time in the PACU. That's after people are done with surgery. Can anybody guess why I didn't like that space?
Because it's all the paperwork and all the recovery of the patient.
It is. And guess what the patients are doing? Nobody would talk to me. It was for me, it was a very boring place. Okay. So that's another thing that I learned in my journey. How many of you like to talk to people, like to interact with people? Then you're going to want to find spaces that allow you to do that. How many of you like the paperwork or maybe like statistics or math? Might try an ICU setting, right? How many of you just like the kids and maybe don't want to deal with adults, right? The pediatrics, maternity, some places like that. There's lots of opportunities for nursing. So what I'm talking about in the middle of my career is that people gave me opportunities. I took them, and I also continue to learn and grow. You're never done learning and growing, right? No matter how old you are. Finally, we got sick of the cold weather and the winters, and we moved down here to Palm Beach County. I moved down here in 2009, so we've been down here for almost 16 years now. And I started work at Bethesda East. Anyone know that hospital? Okay, a little bit further south. It's located in Boynton Beach. And I worked on the telemetry unit. What's telemetry mean? All the EKGs, all the cardiac issues. And then I had the really unique ability. Remember, what did I tell you I also liked to do as a little kid? Besides just nursing? Teach. So amazingly, Bethesda Hospital decided to open a college. So I get a little knock on my door one day and someone says, why don't you come teach for me? And I thought, I loved being at the bedside. I loved taking care of the patients, but I also liked the students that I saw. Any clinical opportunities that you guys get in high school, the ones that were in college. And I thought, this might be another point in my life where I changed what I'm doing, right? So I was invited to come in as a clinical instructor. And then I also had the opportunity to become a faculty member and teach classes like Med-Surg, Med-Surg 2. I did teach the pediatric classes. You'll find out in a while why. Mental health, and then also our leadership classes. After serving in those roles for a few years, I became the dean of Bethesda College in 2017. So with that, now here's another layer of challenges. And that's the exact same year that my first daughter graduated from college or from high school. So while she's heading off to do something different, here's mom going back to school and learning something again. So not only do we have a nursing program, we also have a radiography program. Anybody know what radiographers do?
X-ray.
Absolutely. So they take the x-rays, and radiographers also have an opportunity to go back to school once they graduate, and they can get into, have any of you ever had to have a CT scan or an MRI, maybe of your knee, shoulder, something like that, and ultrasound, right? An echocardiogram, which is a picture of your heart. Okay, so if you start out with this degree, you have many different opportunities after you graduate. So what did I have to do? Because I'm a nurse. What do I know about radiography? I knew that they set you up to take a picture, right? So I had to go back through and learn about their schooling and about what they do. And for each school, as I'm sure your teachers will tell you as well, you can't just run a school, right? You can't just say, I'm going to open a school. There's licenses and accreditation and this thing called the Department of Education. You know, the Department of Education, they make you take lots of tests, right? Lots of tests. So we just had to learn about some of that. I spent about 7 years in those various roles. And then in 2017, Bethesda merged with Baptist Health South Florida. Baptist Health South Florida has 12 hospitals. They cover all the areas from up here in Palm Beach County all the way down through Monroe County. So we have a hospital in Key West and Key Largo. A little bit laid back, a little bit different, but we have hospitals there. And then over 200 outpatient services. Does anybody know what I mean when I mention outpatient services? Oh, concierge medicine. That's what it's being called now. Concierge medicine. Yep. So they go to your house and take care of you. Any of you ever go to an urgent care? Right? Or to an off-campus ED, right? That's where the future of healthcare is headed. Out of the hospital and into these outpatient settings. So we have over 200 of those throughout the 4 county areas. I became the assistant vice president for Baptist Health Academics and Nursing Education about 3 years ago. So I've only been doing this job for 3 years, but I oversee a wide variety of programs. Anybody in here certified or thinking about ever becoming a CNA?
What's that?
Like a certified nursing assistant. Okay, we actually at Baptist have a clinical partner program, which is a challenge test. So anybody who's 18 can apply to this program and you can take a 6-week course and then challenge the test. That gets you into the hospital immediately and creates a path and opens doors for you to head into nursing or NICU, labor and delivery, wherever you want to go. As I mentioned, we also have a college. And then with our college and with our programs at Baptist, we offer something called a Nurse Scholars Program. How many of you would love to go to school for free? Everybody in this room should be raising your hands right now when you think about that. Baptist Health offers scholarships that cover, guess what? Your whole program. And guess what they guarantee you at the end? A job.
Oh.
And that helps you to get all the money that you want. Yes. So lots of opportunities. And then with that, we also have nurse residencies, which are programs that train you as a nurse to work in different areas in the hospital. I want to stop right here and say, as you're looking at colleges, okay, you want to go obviously where you feel comfortable and what appeals to you, but you also need to ask them, do the people that go here graduate? And when they graduate, do they get what? A job. My children despise me because I'm always saying, where are you going? What's their graduation rate? What's their placement rate after that? So always check on that. In the middle, I also took some detours and went back to school. So one of my other little pearls of wisdom is there's no one path for everyone. I stayed at the bedside for almost 20 years before I went back to school. Nowadays, I think there's a pressure for a lot of kids to continue going to school and going to school and going to school. You don't have to follow that route. You can take whatever route that you want to take. So what were some of my roadblocks? My roadblocks were myself. My desire to always be perfect. Does anybody ever think about that in here? Right? And then my comparison to others. I would sit in class and say, oh my gosh, I'm not like her. Oh my gosh, I'm doing something different than her. Even as an adult, when I'm just telling you that my path looked a little bit different, I'm sitting at the bedside going, oh my gosh, should I be back in school? Should I be doing something else? So don't let that be your roadblock. Don't be your own roadblock and don't get in your own way. Step out of your way and stop saying those negative comments to yourself. Everybody's path is different. One of my biggest failures, and I will tell you here, it took me a long, long time to get to this point. Have you ever heard of the NCLEX?
Yes.
Okay, it's a test that you have at the end of your journey in nursing school. I failed the NCLEX. Takes me a lot to say that because it's a very, very big test. It determined my future and I failed it. At that point, I had to wait 6 months before I could test again. The rules are a little bit different now. I cried. I went into a depression. I stayed in my room for weeks and weeks and weeks, covered up until I did what? Put on my big girl pants and said, Amanda, you just got to try again. You're not going to let this go. So my another word of advice to you is one failure does not make or break you. Never. And mine wasn't just failing a class. Mine was failing the NCLEX. And it took me probably 5 to 10 years after I failed the NCLEX to tell people that I failed the NCLEX. Why? Because of my desire to be perfect. That was imperfection. However, I'm here today because I didn't let that stop me. So don't let your failures stop you, ever. Some of my successes, I have 5 kids. 5, a lot. I did that all in the middle of going to school and working. So for you girls out there, you can do anything that you want to do. Okay. I teach dance. So not only do I do what my job and profession is, but also what I love. My son plays baseball in college. We go to a lot of baseball games. So baseball on the beach, I love, and I find time for each of those. So find time to always pursue your passion and then find some sort of balance. That could be a person that balances you out, a thing, a place, somewhere that you can find some balance. What would I tell you? Create your own timeline. It's not anybody else's life. It's not anybody else's time. It's your time. And make your own decisions, right? If you love labor and delivery, pursue labor and delivery. If you love geriatrics, pursue geriatrics. It's your decision. And how do you get there? Okay. I wanted to show you there are so many opportunities in healthcare. You've all heard of most of these things, right? Occupational therapist, physical therapist, speech therapist. But did you know you can do a lot of research in medicine? So if you don't really even want to touch a person, you can influence medicine by being a researcher. So there's opportunities for everyone. And how can you get started on that path, right? That's why you're here today. So some of the things I would talk about, communicate with your family. Do any of you have family members who are in healthcare? Do they tell you to run away? Yeah. No, it depends, right? Some of them are like, no, pick something else. And others are like, no, embrace it. Discuss your future career options with your teachers and your counselors. They know you and they will help you get to the right place. Explore your options. Just like I said, take a minute to look at different units and different hospitals and find what excites you. And then when you get there, ask questions. How are you going to learn anything if you don't ask questions? You should challenge yourself to ask at least one question a day so that you learn and you grow. Take classes that will help you meet your career goals, right? Those are the classes that you're taking now. Medicine, healthcare is also very heavily science-based. So you should be looking for anatomy and physiology classes, some microbiology classes, things like that. There's also a psychology aspect to it, right? There's that caring component of being a nurse or being in healthcare. So maybe some psychology classes or sociology classes. And never forget your maths. Math is not my strong suit. It's not what I love, but you have to take college algebra. Okay, so whether you do it now or in college, you have to take it. Work hard, yet always ask for help. How many of you does that make you nervous to ask for help? Don't let it make you nervous. Put yourself out there. That's how you're going to, again, learn and grow. Shadow a healthcare worker. Baptist Health has an observation program. So if you are 18 years old, you can apply. And you can observe. You can observe a physician. You can observe a nurse. You can observe a therapist. You could observe in the ER and see how the EMTs and firefighters bring the patients in. So you can observe in any of those spaces. You just have to be 18 years of age. And then keep your options open. If you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have thought I'd be in this position that I am today to influence change in nursing education and to come and have the opportunity to speak to young adults as they're preparing for their lifelong journey, I never would have thought that. But it's about keeping your options open and trying new things. I want you to know that there are many, many pathways into healthcare. You don't necessarily have to go to the big schools to get into healthcare. There are a lot of smaller schools, there are a lot of private schools, and there are a lot of entry pathways into nursing or healthcare. So you need to explore them and find out what's best for you. You may not function well in a classroom of 300. You might just want a classroom of 30. So you need to find those schools and those programs that are going to help to develop you into that healthcare worker that you hope to be in the future. So I think, yes, I have reached the end of my presentation. I think we have entertaining some questions.
Anybody have any questions for Miss Amanda?
Yes,
She's a wealth of knowledge.
Oh, you had a beef observation thing.
just 18.
16.
No.
Say it again.
You can't come in independently when you're 16. What we are working with some programs in schools is having smaller groups of 16 and 17-year-olds come in because you would need to have like an adult, a teacher, or a chaperone with you.
Good question.
That's an excellent question.
Anybody else? I think a good point that she's making too is that you don't necessarily have to go to a big name school in order to pursue a career in medicine. You can find a smaller school, like she said, that fits your needs, maybe something that you're more comfortable with, and still have a very successful career in medicine. So,
and I think you'll hear throughout the week from the various speakers that everyone will say there are so many different pathways in. I started with my BSN, but you can also start with an associate's degree. So you just have to go to a 2-year program. And this is this is for people who really want to get to work, maybe have families or need to support others, can get into the hospital system sooner rather than later. So there's a lot of different pathways in here, and you just have to find what works for you and which thing works for you, right? If you like drawing blood, you might want to be a phlebotomist, right? If you like helping someone, there's also, if you like sports, there's athletic training, there's sports medicine that you can get into. There's lots of different options when you get into healthcare.
do you have a question? I saw sports medicine and then something clicked in you.
What's a phlebotomist?
So a phlebotomist draws blood or can start IVs, right? Or if someone has cancer and they have ports, they can help to access the ports. And again, takes a very strong skill set to be able to do that. How many of you might turn your head at the sight of blood? Then maybe that's not what you want to do. But there are other options for you, right?
A question from online audience is about the soft skills. Can you tell us about the soft skills that helped you succeed in your job?
Oh my gosh, soft skills. So I think one of the biggest soft skills is communication. Not KK or a smiling face emoji, but actually talking to someone. So again, challenge yourself to have communications, a caring personality, or just that innate desire to help others. I think it's also important to have a good understanding of time management. When you're in a healthcare setting, you're pulled in many different directions and you need to prioritize what needs to happen first, second, and third. And then I'm going to ask you guys this. Let's say you're laying in a hospital bed and someone came in and said, what would you think? I see all your faces. Confused, get out of my room. I don't trust you, right? Do you even know what you're doing? So you have to have an air of confidence in healthcare because you're taking care of people's lives at their most vulnerable moments. So as you're learning and growing, that confidence has to develop as well. So those are the soft skills that I would recommend. Resumes and interviewing processes. How many of you have thought about any of that? Start to compile your resume and what you've done in life. And then your interviewing skills. We are interviewing people now on the telephone, on Zoom, and in person. So it's very, very important that you have the understanding of how you would interview in each of those three settings, what that looks like. I don't want to see anybody laying in their bed. Right? You need to be up, you need to be dressed appropriately and be able to communicate. So those are some of the soft skills that I would recommend.
How many of you have a resume already put together? Beautiful.
Excellent.
Beautiful. As juniors, you should start thinking about your resume. Put it together.
I was even going to say, take someone on your trip with you. That would be
Yes.
like, ooh, I would be excited to see someone walk up and hand that to me.
I know. Good stuff. Anyone else? Any else? One more question?
Yeah, there's another question. What is the biggest or most common misperception about working in the healthcare field?
Oh, excellent. So for like, I think it's over 20 years, nursing has been the most trusted profession, right? I do think though that the pandemic exposed some vulnerabilities in the healthcare system and exposed some deficiencies that we need to improve on. I think that it also showed that I love that people think we just go to work in our cute little scrubs with our cute little bows in our hair, right? Taking care of everyone. And it's so much more than that. It's a challenging situation. I always say healthcare is challenging emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. All of those are challenged when you're in the healthcare setting. And it's just, it was exposed during the pandemic. However, I always want everyone to remember that when you're in a healthcare setting, those individuals that are taking care of you are very selfless, right? Because they care less about themselves and more about you and taking care of you. They're very determined and caring and genuinely good people. And I just like to continue advocating for the healthcare workforce.
Great. Great question. Yes.
Another question from the online audience. How many years of schooling have you done up to this point, and do you plan on going back to school?
I'm a secret nerd, if you didn't all guess that. I have about 4 books sitting beside my bed right now that I just read, and not one of them has to do with nursing. So you have a life outside of that. So initially for my bachelor's program, I went to school for 4 years. My master's program is specifically in nursing education. So for any of you thinking about being a nurse practitioner, and I know there's a nurse practitioner coming to speak to you later in the week, that's where you also can get that nurse practitioner license, is in your master's program. That took 2 years. And then my doctorate is in healthcare systems leadership, and that was an additional 2 years. So in total, 8 years of schooling. Do I plan on going back?
Never say never.
Exactly. But guess what I might go back for now? Business. No, business. I think at the end of the day, it's kind of about running a business, right? And there's always some really big things. It's, business, just like the media and social media and different things like that. And then project management. You can never go wrong with learning how to see a project from the start to the finish. So I will never say never. I'll probably end back up in school within the next 2 years.
Perfect. Is that it?
No, there's actually more.
Okay.
So you said that you failed the exam at the end of nursing school and that you had to wait 6 months to retake it, but things have changed now. What does that mean?
So now things have changed and you only have to wait 45 days. So just a little over a month. And in that process, you can reapply and you get things ready. So there's a big difference between 6 months and 45 days. It felt like forever. What I will say is after I cried and wallowed in my sorrow and then got out of bed, the unit that I was working in allowed me to come back and work as a clinical partner. So I was given an opportunity to still continue to grow and learn while I was preparing again for the NCLEX. What did I do wrong for the NCLEX? I graduated and thought I knew everything because I had gotten good grades. And guess what I did?
Didn't study.
I went on vacation.
Oh.
Took a nice little trip. I thought I was good. I was ready to go. And then I sat there, and at that time you could have 325 questions or 75 questions. So the first time as it was getting to like 324 and 325, I was like, I just knew, right? I knew that I had not prepared. So the second time around, I really every day studied and really put my 100% into it, knowing that you don't know everything. Even if the grades are A's, you don't know everything. Wow, it's taken me a long time to get to this point of saying it. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
How many times can you repeat it?
So you can take it up to 3 times, and then you have to do a remedial course through the state, but you can continue to take it more times after that.
Do you have to pay to take it?
Yes.
And does it get like pricier each time?
Luckily, no. But it is about on an estimation right now, it's about $500 to take the NCLEX. And that's because in addition to registering to take the test, you also have to get like your background check, right? Because you're working with everyone and have to get cleared through that criminal process as well.
So ideally, you don't want to have to take it several times.
Exactly.
Those are good questions. Are we good with, yes, ma'am?
Mentioned about the pediatrics. What is your experience when you are in that kind of
With pediatrics. So my lifelong dream when I was younger was to go to Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and work. And when I graduated, there were 0 openings there. So that's why I had to pivot and apply for the program that I was accepted into. My experience with pediatrics came later in life in the emergency department. There are specific people who can be trained in the emergency department to deal with pediatric emergencies. And I decided that that would be my contribution to pediatrics and my way to work with kids. So I did that in Altoona as an experience, and that was my opportunity to work with them. Also had 5 kids of my own, so that was a lot of experience with kids in that realm.
Good question. Anyone else?
I think we have time for one more question, and there is one more. Would you ever go back up north?
I was thinking that too.
My oldest does live up there. She lives in Pittsburgh now. I visit her twice a year, and I specifically decide when to try to visit her. So no, I don't have any intentions of heading back up north. Great question. If I could move south, further south, I would move further south, actually. I love warm weather.
See if there's an opening in the Keys, right?
Yes, I keep telling them that. If there's an opening in Key West, let me know. You have been an excellent audience. Thank you
Well,
for
let's
everything.
give her one more big thank you.